Dear Santa Tom, I know it is still 5 months till Christmas, but I know how much lead time you need for each month, so I thought I would send you this letter early in the hopes of getting my wish list filled. The first thing on my wish list has to do with dungeons. I have been playing Neverwinter since it came out of beta, 5 years now, and I've seen a lot of changes. Some I consider good, some I consider bad. The bad have included the removal of half of our dungeons and having nothing to replace them. Removing half the content in any game is devastating, but in one that was already getting light on challenging content was even more so. Add to this the change from mob-heavy dungeons to long, empty hallways and single-target boss fights, and the content took a huge step backwards. For Christmas, can we please have our dungeons and our multi-mob boss fights back? Fighting a single boss for a longer time versus fighting a boss while dealing with additional mobs that spawn randomly is a night and day difference. Having the control wizard control mobs. Devoted clerics have to heal to keep the party alive. Changes the whole dynamic of the game, doesn't it? Let's make the tanks actually have to control the boss or the mobs so the other players do not get swarmed to death and you have a fun dungeon again. I understand that you are trying to balance between the new and old players, but you seem to be throwing out the old players in favor of the new ones. Additional tiers of dungeons with more mobs and mob-spawning boss fights would correct this problem without taking anything away from the new player experience. Maybe even 3 or 4 levels of difficulty so all the players will have a challenge and the ability to play more rewarding content based on their experience and skill in the game. Of course, as the dungeons go higher, the rewards must keep up. Or you will leave the people thinking it is not worth it to take the time to finish a dungeon of higher level for a meager reward. You have shown that scaling can be made better with the changes to Mod 14's leveling dungeons. Let's take that to the next level and give everyone content to play, not just the new players. One possible way of doing this is to add additional bosses to defeat to get to the end boss. So a Tier 2 dungeon, say, gets one more challenge, a boss fight, added. A Tier 3 dungeon, 2 more bosses added, plus more mobs along the way. That way, the power creep starts to get away from you. You add a boss fight, you add more mobs, and a dungeon stays viable. For pure challenge, please stop the empty hallways and single target boss fights and give us back some of the old school feel of the game.